Let's get into the big game from last night. We're going to start over in the Pac-12 conference on the West Coast. UCLA, Arizona, really a juggernaut of a game. Two teams that have aspirations of a Final Four, aspirations of a potential national championship. UCLA got Arizona the first time. Last night was a bit of sweet revenge for the Wildcats, and it got a little testy down the stretch. We'll talk more about the aftermath of the game as some wild things have come to fruition. But first, let's talk on court. Arizona wins 76-66. Kerr Kriisa made some shots in this game. That was a pleasant surprise. Sean, let's go to you first. What's your takeaway from that game? Are the Wildcats a top 4 team in the country, and is this a statement win for them?
I think so. I mean, I will probably, depending on how the bracket shakes out, I'll probably pick Gonzaga to win it all, but Arizona's right there. And Greg knows before the year, he asked me his question. He said, who's your dark horse Final Four team? I said Arizona. And the reason being is because they have so many pros on that roster. Benedict Mathurin, that's a lottery pick. Azuolas Tubelis will play in the pros eventually, still coming off that injury. Didn't play late in the game. Kerr Kriisa, he's developing a little bit. He's going to be up and down because he takes a lot of wild threes, but he's a solid point guard. He's a good show runner. But Dalen Terry is really the X factor for that team, only averaging 6 points per game, but it's 6 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and he's going to defend your best perimeter player at all times. Dalen Terry is a really good player. He's going to be another pro. This Arizona team, they play fast. They have a lot of size. They can shoot the basketball. I love everything that Tommy Lloyd's doing in year one. This is a team that can definitely cut down the nets in New Orleans here in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was definitely a big win for them. I think just from a mental standpoint, you never want to get swept, by a team in your conference. So for them to be able to bounce back and get a win was huge. Obviously, in that first one, Arizona shot horribly. Kerr Kriisa put up a donut, 0 for 12 from the floor, 0 for 9 from 3. And he didn't even shoot it great last night. He was 4 of 14 from the floor last night. But he obviously didn't turn the ball over. Only 2 turnovers, 5 assists. And obviously, they fed off his energy. I mean, Kerr Kriisa is a guy that plays with a lot of swagger, and he's out there rocking the headband and constantly pointing to the crowd. And obviously, they fed off of that energy in the McCann Center out there in Tucson, Arizona last night. And he's somebody that when he's feeling himself, he's playing well. The Arizona played well, and obviously, the end of the game, I was cracking up watching it. He's in front of the UCLA bench. He throw the ball into the stands, and I mean, the guys is awesome, man. Super fun to watch, but. I still think the UCLA is probably the better basketball team going forward. They were able to shoot the ball really well in that first game at home. Last night, it kind of flipped. UCLA only shot in that game 38.9% from the floor, 3 of 14 from 3, only 21%. So if they meet on a neutral, it's basically going to be a game of who which team is making shots, which team's best players show up. And I think if I had to bet on one of those teams, I think I would bet on Juzang and UCLA to get the job done.
Yeah, so that was Cody Riley. He's a senior at UCLA. His first loss to Arizona in his career. Now 1-6 against Arizona. Yeah. Look, I think this game is more about Arizona than it is about UCLA. And I'll be honest, I've been skeptical of Arizona until last night. I think their only good win of the season prior to last night was the road win at Illinois. And I'll be honest, I have questions about how good Illinois is. And I know they're at the top of the Big Ten conference right now, or up there. Kofi Coburn's been amazing, but there's some squinting, how good of a win really is that to me? Arizona proved that they can make a Final Four run to me in this game, to dominate a UCLA team basically from start to finish. I know it got a little dicey in spots over the second half, but for the most part, that was a comfortable win for an Arizona team that I still don't feel played great. I mean, you said it. Kerr Kriisa was 4 for 14 last night. Ben Mathurin was 11 points.
He didn't even play late in the game. He was on the bench after the under 4.
Right. This to me was a comfortable off night type win for an Arizona team, which to me, I think it's totally readjusted how I view their floor and their ceiling come March. Let's talk about Kerr Kriisa though, because he's a guy who can shoot you to a victory, obviously, but he's a guy who can shoot you straight to a loss. Come March, I mean, it's about putting 6 consecutive wins together to win a national title. Can a team with Kerr Kriisa as their key guy in the backcourt really win 6 straight in March? Sean, what do you think?
I think so, and here's the reason why. Look at his assist-to-turnover ratio, 5 assists to 2 turnovers. That's pretty good. And here's the thing. Like you said, he could shoot you out of a game and he can shoot you to win a game. but there's got to be some situations where he just doesn't shoot the ball. Like, you have other options around you. You don't always have to take the shot. He can make them, but I think it serves Arizona better if he's playing more passive, being more of a facilitator, getting other guys involved like Mathurin, like Tubelis, like Koloko. You have so many options around you that he doesn't have to be that guy. And I think if he starts showing that he's going to be more pass first, I think that can help the team around him get a little better. But if he struggles in the tournament, you have a guy that you can turn to in Dalen Terry where he can run the show. He's not a natural point guard, but he can provide a bit of a mismatch with his 6'7" frame, his good passing ability. He's a guy that knows how to win. He's a winning player. I think if something happens where Crease is over 6.5, you can put Dalen Terry at that point guard spot, and I think you'd be just fine. So I think Arizona will be just fine with Kirk Kriisa or Dalen Terry running the point, and I don't think that'll hinder them from winning a title. But I think having a guy like Tiger Campbell for UCLA is something that definitely helps them. He's started in the Final Four. He's a great passer, and he's been one of the best shooters in the Pac-12 this year. So for a team like UCLA, I think that lifts their ceiling.
Yeah, I'm not all in on Kirk Kriisa right now. I mean, the thing that makes you a great basketball team in March is point guard play. I mean, last year, obviously, Baylor in their point guard play with Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler. I mean, even back to the Villanova teams with Colin Gillespie and then with Jalen Brunson and with Archie Diacono. And you go back to Virginia with Kyle Guy and with Ty Jerome and the point guards that those guys have had. I just don't know if Kirk Kriisa, I mean, the kid's only a sophomore. He only played 8 games last year in that COVID team. So he doesn't really have a ton of experience in those big moments, in those big games. You look at a team like Gonzaga, who has Andrew Nembhard, who has played in big games. You look at a team like a Villanova, who has a Colin Gillespie, who's played in those big games. And even, a team like Auburn, who has Wendell Green, who hasn't played in those big games. But I think for one game, I'd probably take him over a guy like Kirk Kriisa. Jaden Ivey on Purdue isn't necessarily a natural point guard, but he's somebody that in big games can go out there, can get you 20 to 25 points. So I think if you look at the guard play on other teams that they would potentially have to go through to get to a Final Four, to get to a national championship, I think I would just like their guard play over Kirk Kriisa in a one-game scenario. So Arizona definitely has potential to go far, but I think the thing that's going to hurt them is Kirk Kriisa's inconsistency. He's only a 33% shooter from the floor this year. So, we were talking about kind of the last few games where he struggled, but he hasn't really shot it well all season, and we're already here in early February. So I don't know if that's something that he's going to just wake up one day and turn around. So, we'll see what happens with him. But I think, me personally, I'm just not sold on Kirk Kriisa and his point guard and his ability as a point guard when we talk about the teams that are contending for a national championship.
Yeah, Kirk Kriisa plays like it's always Kirk Kriisa time, which is enjoyable to watch as a non-Arizona fan. I bet Arizona fans would tell you it's enjoyable to watch sometimes, and it's frustrating as hell some other times. The problem with Kirk to me is you got Ben Mathurin, man. There's going to be a big game later this season where Ben Mathurin is not nearly as involved as he should be. And Kirk Kriisa is way too involved on a night where he's not very hot. And that just terrifies me for Arizona's prospects in March. But, man, I got to say, it's really fun to watch him. I mean, this guy has his first name on the back of his jersey. I respect the audaciousness from that alone. And last night, after the win, guys, he was ready with the Twitter fingers, okay? He had the receipts after UCLA's first win. He quote tweeted a tweet from a UCLA account that said, "Our sentiments about Arizona very eloquently put by Tiger Campbell." And plug your ears, but you can see Tiger Campbell in slow motion basically saying, "F Arizona." Well, Kirk Kriisa was right on it with the quote tweet and said, "It's mutual." So look, he's kind of becoming the fun villain of college basketball to me right now.
There's always one.
And there needs.
I do love that about him. I will say I love players that play like that because obviously, now you got all these good boys out here don't want to talk any trash, don't want to go on Twitter and talk anything. I don't know. I love players and coaches too because some coaches be in the press conferences don't want to say anything, gonna piss the other team off. Man, I love coaches that get in the press conference and talk we here and players that will get in the press conference and say, not arrogantly, but we just spanked them. Me personally, I want to see more of that. So I do love that about Kirk Kriisa. I think going forward in his career, that's something that's gonna bode really well for him going down the line.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Arizona UCLA Part 3 in the Pac-12 tournament at this point.
I think it's likely for sure.
Yeah, they got to be the favorites. Hopefully it's for a Pac-12 title. We shall see.